Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this webinar. It's another session along with now SolarEdge and Apar from India. They are in DC cable. SolarEdge is a very well-known name in solar industry. And before we start, I hope we all are safe and sound in best of our health, various part of the world from wherever we are attending this. And I wish in this difficult time we protect ourselves and our near and dear ones. Don't expose too much. This session is around 1 hour 15 minutes or 1 hour 30 minutes, including 15-20 minutes of questions and answers. We have two companies, SolarEdge from the inverters and Apar DC cables. They manufacture all type of cables, and solar is one of their main area. Two veterans from the industry. One is Mr. Joe from SolarEdge. More than 30 years of experience in solar industry, including 5 years with Masdar in Abu Dhabi and back in Germany. Mr. Doshi, plus 20 years of an experience in the cable industries, in cable, all type of cable, including the solar and DC cables as well. So let's use this session to exchange and dialogue with them and understand how best they can support us from their capacities and capabilities which they possess as being leaders in this industry. Most of the attendees are from the installer or the installation side, the people who are engaged in one or the other form in the solar business. We will also have last around 10 minutes or 15 minutes in an open house where you can raise your hands and we can provide a mic to you online, and then you can raise a live questions. Alternatively, you can also mention your questions in a chat box, which is there at the bottom of your screens from where you are, from where you have registered, and the screen which is open in front of you. So this is on powering business the smart way. That what type of differentiation the SolarEdge brings to the industry in terms of the safe and secure installations. Then your rapid shutdowns, energy yield. I think instead of me speaking it further on the subject, I will leave this to the Joe to explain it to us. And the same way it will be with the cables. Around 10 minutes, I would like to spend on the importance of managing the supply chain in the solar industry and what difference it can bring. We have coined up a terminology called as a solar simplified, which ensures at least 25 to 30% time reduction in a solar project actually turnaround time, and at least 2 or 3% in terms of the overall cost of a system. So thanks for attending once again and being a part of this wonderful session. Over to Mr. Joe.
Okay, thank you very much for giving us here this opportunity to present SolarEdge once again with you, Power and Sun, as our partner here in the UAE. And I really look forward to share with you and also with the attendees of this session here my presentation. So I would like to highlight again that we just announced a couple of days or weeks ago our numbers for the first quarter, and we SolarEdge we have confirmed again that we are, let's say, a bit out of this COVID topic which we all suffered from, and we increased again our quarterly numbers to above $400 million in Q1. And we have seen that the last 4 quarters we have increased these numbers constantly. But let me give you a short brief overview of what SolarEdge is. And I think it is really important that to mention we have achieved to become the #1 solar inverter company in the world based on our unique features that SolarEdge offers. And I think this was the reason why also a company like Power & Sun got the attention, and I am really looking forward that we teamed up here and that Power & Sun will distribute our products in this region. So the SolarEdge, we were able to achieve last year in 2020 a revenue of almost $1.5 billion. And as I just mentioned, our first quarter this year, we already showed 400 million and above. So in general, we can see that the business here is definitely coming back, I believe, not only to us, but in general to the PV industry. SolarEdge, it is important that we serve at the moment more than 33,000 installers who already experience SolarEdge in a very best way. And we are doing this in more than 130 countries in this world. And I repeat myself, I am really looking forward to specifically address now the UAE, because what I definitely see is that the UAE is a country which really goes for top-notch and best technology. And I believe in this regard, SolarEdge is a company which can deliver to these attributes. So SolarEdge is a company which is acting worldwide. Acting means we have manufacturing facilities across the globe, which means we are presenting and manufacturing as close as possible to our markets, plus our service centers worldwide. So, as I said, based on very, very unique features that SolarEdge offers, we were able to grow our position in the ranking of PV inverter suppliers constantly over the last years. And you can see it here. SolarEdge has been ranked as #1 since 2019, and we keep this position as we speak. So I would like to highlight again what is the specifics about our offering and why were we able to achieve this position here globally. So if you look at a general PV installation, and I think this is nothing new, we have the PV panels on the roof or either on ground mount, and you have an inverter. So, but what SolarEdge is adding is power optimizer, and the power optimizer is now a controller, an individual controller, which allows to control the maximum power of an individual panel. So let's assume each panel gets a power optimizer, and therefore each panel has an MPP tracker. And important to mention, our inverter itself therefore does not contain an MPP tracker anymore. So that's a very different and unique approach, and that's why we have here some advantages which I will explain in a moment. I think also very important to highlight again, okay, this is when you look at the PV system. The PV system contains of these major components, which is definitely the panel, it is the inverter, it's cables, but it is important. Am I now on? It is important that that we all know that it is the inverter which really makes the difference. Okay. So, and I want to explain it, and I really use this kind of example over and over again, because this explains it easier to your clients. So assume that you have here like these 4 bikers, or let's say 4 different panels, and as long as all of them perform in the same way, then definitely you can add them up, and there is 1000 watt in this case. But what if one of these bikers, or let's call them one of these panels, would have a lower performance versus the others in the string or on the same bike, right? And I think this is something which shows reality. Out on your roof, there is definitely one of the panels which performs a bit lower than the rest in the same string. And in this case, your inverter, which has then one MPP tracker, or let's call it one controller, now has to take care about the lowest and the weakest in the chain. So all the others, all the other bikers, all the other panels need to reduce their power, although they would be able to produce more. And that's the drawback of a typical, let's say, string inverter design, right? Where you have in your inverter, you have your controller, which is the MPP tracker. And this one MPP tracker now controls all the panels which are connected in a string with this MPPT. Okay. So, and again, the weakest of these panels will define the maximum power point for all of the rest. Now, and here is what SolarEdge therefore came up with. Okay. So we considered to give each of those bikers, each of those panels, solar panels, an individual control unit, right? And that's what we call a power optimizer. And therefore, what we can do now, even we have then one of these bikers, one of these panels lower in the same string, even then the others can still continue to perform to their maximum. And this obviously leads to a higher yield, right? So what we do is we still have an inverter, but this inverter does not have any MPP tracker. Instead, this inverter from SolarEdge works together with power optimizers, which now sit here next to the panel. And this power optimizer has now the MPP tracker integrated. And this gives us what we call module level power electronics. And this gives us definitely a higher yield. Okay, so there is a big difference between a standard string inverter and a SolarEdge using power optimizer. And I want to show you again how it shows the difference and the way it is stringed. So let's take a normal string inverter. A normal string inverter, what you do is you connect panel to panel to panel and to connect them all up into one string. So, and then you have it connected with a string inverter, which has here sitting centrally an MPP tracker. Okay, that works, it's fine. But what makes the difference when I use it with SolarEdge and the power optimizer? I connect my panel, one panel per one MPP tracker or one power optimizer. We can also do two panels with one MPP tracker, but let me explain in this easier case. So we connect the panels to a power optimizer, which contains the MPP tracker. And now we do not connect the panels in series, but we connect the MPP trackers, meaning the power optimizers, in series, and then go into a SolarEdge inverter, which has no MPP tracker. So it's the complete system. And this now makes a huge difference. You can see here, and it's somehow shown, therefore we can build much longer strings. A string here is limited by, let's say, 1000 volts. So at some certain point in time, you have to stop your string because it would exceed 1000 volts. And therefore, these string lengths are pretty short. We, in SolarEdge, we can do double the string lengths, which means we are saving cable returns by approximately 50%. But let me show you what this also affects. So let's take a typical 100 kilowatt system. Let's assume we are using 425 watt panels, which means I am using 236 panels. Okay. Let's assume that we take an 80 kilowatt inverter, which means the DC-AC ratio is about 120%. So a normal standard traditional string inverter might have, let's say, 6 MPP trackers, which sit in the inverter. SolarEdge, as I said, we combine 2 panels with 1 optimizer. So we are controlling the same system now with 118 MPP trackers. Okay, so, and I think you would definitely accept that such a system is definitely giving you higher yield because we individually now control the maximum power of the panels. Okay, so, and here what I say is the string lengths. So if you have 236 panels and the panels have 52 volt of VOC, you are able to put 16 panels in a string, and therefore you would need 14 strings. SolarEdge, we can do, and this is something that I might have to explain in a separate session, but we are allowed to put 32 panels in a string with 16 optimizers. And therefore, our strings, the number of strings, is just half of what you normally use here in a string inverter design. So the question is, you know, when does the panel perform different than its neighbor in the same in a string? And of course, it is when there is shading, partial shading on a roof, right? Let's assume you look at these 2 panels here on the roof. It is obvious that this chimney will throw some shadow at least at some point in time during the day. But look what happens when you use SolarEdge. These 2 panels are affected, but only these 2 panels are affected. Okay? That's why we give these 2 panels individual control. The other panels, they perform absolutely to their maximum. Okay? They are not affected during this time when there is a partial shading. And that gives us higher yield. So in this specific case, we would end up with 12.4% more energy yield. And this makes a big, big difference in the return on invest of a system. So, but the question always comes up and says, look, is this everything? I mean, is it only when I have shading in a system where I have a value of this extra power optimizer? And the clear answer is no. Whenever there is a mismatch, mismatch means one panel performs different than the others. That's called mismatch. And when I want to explain to you where mismatch can happen. And mismatch, for instance, can happen purely by a difference in temperature. Okay, so imagine that this is a field of array of panels, and the wind comes from this side. So you will agree with me that these panels here, where the wind starts blowing in, they get better cooled than panels which sit here in the array on the upper right, right? And since a solar panel has a so-called temperature coefficient, these panels here get negatively affected, and these ones, they have a higher performance. So here you see as well, even though there might be no shadow, but the performance of the panels in this array is definitely different. Okay, by using SolarEdge power optimizers, we would be able to achieve high yield here, and of course lower yield there. But these ones will not affect these ones. Okay, then really very, very important is also, if you buy panels at day one, you are ordering, and this is, we should update this chart because 250 watt panels we can barely find anymore on the market. So, but just to explain to you the principle. So a module manufacturer gives you so-called plus sorting. So, and this is typically 3%. Okay? So when you buy panels, you are paying 250 watt, but you get everything between 250 and 255 watt. So, which means when you buy something new, you already have a positive mismatch, But how can you use this positive mismatch when you all put these panels with a string inverter? Okay? The string inverter would always say, wait, there is one panel which is lower performing, and therefore I have to reduce all the rest. Okay? Whereas in SolarEdge, we are utilizing this positive sorting, and we can squeeze out more of this given performance of the panels. And the next one is really, if you look at day one today, yes, there is mismatch, but will this further increase? And the clear answer is yes. Please, a panel today will age different than another panel. Okay, so even though they might have at day one the same power, wait another whatever 10, 15, 20 years, and you will see that those panels they will have a bigger difference in their performance as in day one, which means the mismatch even gets worse when we go further down time and the timeline. So, and here I want to show you that even we have here an area which is non-shaded, all the panels are the same, and still you can see in year one we already have an advantage in terms of higher yield of 2.7%. And you can see what I just mentioned, since the panels age different, this mismatch even goes up to 5% of yield that SolarEdge can generate in year 20. And trust me, these numbers, yield is the most important number when you regard a return on investment of your PV system. So, and here we show just an example of an installation where all the panels are in this exactly same orientation, same tilt, no shading. So you would expect that all these panels over 28 months, this is what we recorded in this case, you would expect that all these panels should have performed and generated the same energy yield. But look at it. The lowest is 550 kilowatt hours over that period of time. The highest is 650 kilowatt hours over a period of time. Okay? So that makes a difference of 18.2% between max and min. But let's assume that we at least would get an average of 9% more energy yield, and that makes an immense difference in your calculations and return on investment. So again, what I want to say is power optimizers are not only giving a value when you have shading. No, every kind of mismatch between panels in a string, we are able to address and therefore get out a higher yield. Okay. Now, please also be informed that, let's say, if you build up a system with power optimizers in such a way, since we are connecting each panel or two panels with one power optimizer, we can monitor exactly the individual panel. So we do module level monitoring. And that means that if one of these panels, let's say, would perform bad, you would even get a signal on your iPhone or whatever, which says, oh, please, it is the second panel on the third row which doesn't perform. So we have an absolute best transparency of how a system performs in the field. Okay? And this is really, really key because it eases the maintenance, and definitely it also increases the uptime of the system, because when you see a problem, when you discover a problem, it's either your end client, you as the EPC, or whoever, you can immediately react and you know exactly where the problem is. Okay, you don't have to send a service technician on the site in order to find out, please investigate where the problem is. We tell you while you sit in your office and we exactly show you where the problem lies. So So overall, we get higher yield. We have a more flexible design because imagine you have, let's assume you have two different roofs. One is, let's say, east and one is west. You can put all of these panels in the same string, right? Because we control it individually, don't worry. And the string length is even longer. Okay, we can do strings of different lengths. We can do strings where you have a match between tilt and the orientation of panels. You even can use different sizes of panels. It all is possible. And what I said before, since we build longer strings, we also are able to reduce the balance of system cost. So cabling cost is just more or less reduced by half. So, and then another very important topic and feature is safety. And let me start with this one here. Okay. And please, I always explain it like this, and I hope that you as well, those who listen here to this webinar, if you talk to your clients, please somehow deliver it in a similar way. So let's just say you have a SolarEdge system installed with a string inverter. Okay. This is what you have on your roof. And now this is your villa. This is your villa and you have these panels installed on a roof. So let's say you have, for whatever reason, it's not PV related, but for whatever reason, you might have a fire in your kitchen. You call the firefighters and the first thing they do is they cut the power off, the AC power off. But since the sun is shining, these panels continue to produce voltage. Okay? And you are adding them up to 1000 volt, which means even though you have switched off AC, you are not able to switch off the DC voltage on your cables. So the 1000 volt remain. And guess what? A firefighter, he is not able to fight your fire and throw water on these panels because he might be killed. Okay? So what it is now with SolarEdge, it's the same situation. The firefighter comes, it switches off the AC connection first, the power supply to your inverter. Okay. Each of these panels also, they create 40 volts because we cannot switch off the sun. But now the 40 volt go into the power optimizer, and the power optimizer recognizes that the inverter, the SolarEdge inverter, was switched off. So it takes 40 volts in each of these power optimizer, and then it says, I will not pass a voltage continue to the inverter because the inverter is gone. So I will give here at the output automatically 1 volt, which means my total voltage on the DC cables is now only 50 volt or maximum 50 volt. And this is a voltage where everybody, a firefighter, can touch. He can throw water on it. There is no problem at all. Now, this is very important to mention because in some countries, some leading countries like United States, Germany, they have implemented safety rules for solar, for PV installations. And please, I am working here with Power and Sun. I'm working here also with DIVA, that we find a way where we also implement in the UAE safety rules for PV. It is very, very important. Okay? And these rules are mentioned here, and just here, this rule, for instance, says, protect human beings from touching DC cables that carry more than 120 volt, 15 seconds after AC has been switched off. And that's something that SolarEdge automatically performs. Okay? And this is really, really an extreme value. You have to be careful when you install systems that these systems are safe and they protect the asset, not only people, but also the asset. If you install a nice villa, you don't want to expose this asset of the villa because you install PV. No, PV helps you to reduce electricity cost and it helps you to become green, but at no point in time you want to jeopardize the asset itself of your villa, of your factory, whatever it is, of your hotel, of your hospital, and so on. And also, what SolarEdge does automatically with our inverters and power optimizers, we detect arcs. We detect arcs early, which means we do not allow an arc to stand long and catch fire. No, if we detect an arc, we shut the system down and therefore avoid that a fire can break. So all these systems are and features are something that SolarEdge offers. And here in summary again, so it is higher yield because we use power optimizers. The power optimizers also allow best transparency in terms of monitoring. We have an absolutely flexible design. Do whatever you want in terms of combining panels of different orientations, tilt and everything. Okay? Reduce cost of cabling. We have lower operating and maintenance costs because we have this transparency and better uptime. And really the safety topic is something, please consider it and tell your clients that you get this automatically when you would go with SolarEdge. And last but not least, but based on the design of our systems, we are able to offer warranties for our inverters of 12 years standard and even possible to extend to 20 years at low cost. And our power optimizers, they have 25 years of warranty. And that's also something which is, let's call it unique. And based on these features and based on these benefits, I'm really looking now forward to address this product and our technology to the UAE, and thanks to Power and Sun to push it with us. And with this, I want to give it back to LK.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for your nice presentation. We have a couple of questions coming up in a chat, so I will take them actually at the end of the session. But your summary is indeed quite powerful: higher yield, flexible design, safety. Good. May I call without wasting much time, Mr. Doshi? Doshi is presenting it from India, from his home, because COVID situations are not great. He has been, as I said, he is there in the cable industry for more than 20 years. They are one of the largest cable producers and supplying it across the continents. In Middle East holds sizable market share. It's difficult to put it in numbers because there's no such studies as been done on the cables, but there are on inverters and PV modules. But we sell a lot, and thanks to the Apar. Mr. Doshi, I think I'll have to make you
please
presenter as well. I think sometime the system.
Is my screen visible? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. First of all, a warm hello to all the attendees of these seminars. And I would also take this opportunity to, thank Mr. Verma for organizing this seminar, as well as giving us an opportunity to present about our company. I would also, appreciate Joachim's presentation. It was a very insightful, to find about, especially about, like LK also said, the flexible design, the yield, and mainly the safety aspect of it. I think that's a very important aspect, which actually needs a lot of attention. So without wasting much time, I'll actually just move on to the presentation of Apar. To give a glance about the company, Apar is basically one of the largest players in terms of, so we have three divisions. Overall, it's a $1.1 billion company, but we have three divisions. We are into specialty oils, in which we are the largest in the power transformer for 220 kV transformer oils. We also export a lot of our transformer oils and white oils. And we have recently opened a factory in Hamria, which is for manufacturing of the transformer as well as the lubricants. As far as conductor goes, overhead conductors, we are doing up to 1200 kV, and we are one of the top 3 conductor manufacturers in the world. We also manufacture catenary wires, OPGW as well. Coming to the cables, which I am a part of, we are one of the largest manufacturers of cables, in the world in terms of the range of the cables that we offer, which I'll talk about in the future slides. So like I said, we have a huge range of cables, and it varies right from low voltage cables to medium voltage, high voltage cables, rubber cables, solar DC cables, windmill for windmill mining cables, trailing cables. There's a whole bunch of cables. So we cater to generally most of the industries which is possible. In terms of business, this year obviously was quite steady. We have been growing exponentially for quite a number of years, but this year, because of the COVID situation, still we managed to reach around $250 million, and we see FY22 as a great prospect. In terms of the business sectors, if you look at renewable is one of the largest sectors that we do. Even the EPC and utility that we do, a large part of it does go to the renewable business. So for us, renewable business is very, very important, and we are a very, very strong player as well. Exports contributes to around 20% of the total business that we do. So this is the production capacities that we have. We can manufacture rubber cables for nearly 100,000 kilometers a year. The power cables, which is the AC cable and the DC cables, we do up to 170,000. The optic fiber cables is more than 200,000 a year. And the electron beam cables, which is generally used for the rooftop applications, is nearly 60,000 kilometers a year. We have 2 facilities, which is actually based out of Gujarat, which is just 150 kilometers from the port. So, over a day's time, we can have the containers loaded onto the vessels as far as possible, or as early as possible. And we have been manufacturing cables for more than 3 decades now. It's been 4 decades rather, I would say. Since 1981, we have been manufacturing our cables. All the factories are ISO certified for 9,000, 14,000 as well as 45,001. And our laboratories are also NABL accredited. So that is an international recognition. So all the cables that are passed are, accredited by the NABL lab. This is just a copy of the certifications that we have. We have certificates from BSI for the ISO certificates. We have the NABL certification. We are also UL certified for a huge number of cables, including the 4703 PV cables. Photovoltaic cables also we do, which is UL certified. Coming to solar cables, basically solar cables in the solar farm are categorized, I would say, into 5 categories rather. One would be the PV module to PV module and the module to array junction boxes. So these cables are generally exposed to sunlight, through the day and the atmospheric temperature as well. So there we advise to use the DC solar cables, because the single core cables are for positive as well as negative. They are insulated with the cross-link zero halogen cables, which is the XLPO cables, which we call them, which has UV properties as well as the ozone protection. And these are manufactured as per TUV EN specs, or even as per the UL specification is required. The next is the array junction box to main junction, and the main junction box to the inverter. Now these cables are generally not exposed to sunlight, and which are routed through PVC pipes. So here the XLPE cables are used for these category. Then you have the inverter to the transformer, the primary. which is a 3-phase output. From the inverters, it is connected to the primary. These are generally the underground armored cables, which are even used in the normal or other AC cables, you can call them. Then you have the transformer secondary to the RMU switchyard. These are the cables, which are from the secondary to the RMU and armored. These are generally for 11 kV and above cables. And then you have the 3-phase connection of RMU to the switchyard to armored cables. These are right from, say, your 1.8, 3.6, 11, 22, depending on the use. Now, the category A is always the copper cable which is used, or tin copper cable with XLPO insulation. As far as for the B, C, D, and E categories, which is the array junction, inverter to transformer, RME to switchyard, it could be copper as well as aluminium. We actually promote aluminium because the cost difference is quite high. Today, copper is at an LME of 10,000, whereas aluminium is only in the range of 2,500. And since these are underground cables, we actually suggest that going aluminium is a better option because you get the same characteristics of the cable as copper. You just have to go one size higher. Solar cables, like we said, we are having more than 3 decades of experience for manufacturing these elastomeric cables. All these solar cables are made under E-beam facility. I will talk about the E-beam facility. I'll show you the facility as well. So basically, we have 3 kind of 1.5 up to 3 million electrode accelerators, which is used for cross-linking of elastomeric insulation. So generally, if you see in most of the countries, even in the Middle East, who are supplying these cables, they are using the compound methodology, wherein the compound is extruded and then it is done by stem curing. Whereas our technology which we use is basically the accelerator, the E-beam accelerator, which are then put out, and then you get those giving the cross-linking to the compound. That actually is in fact more useful, and it increases the lifespan and the properties about the cable also. So these PV cables, what we call, they are basically used for the interconnecting of the solar arrays into the energy farm. It can be used for fixed installation as well as for the internal and external. And they have ultraviolet properties, like I mentioned, ozone resistance. So there is no issues with that as well. And even with those, even if they are installed, we give a warranty of 25 years. And in fact, whenever they have been used in some special countries like Australia, we also offer them with rodent and termite resistance in many cases. So the advantages when we talk about these E-beam cables, actually, so it offers a superior performance in the extreme environments. You'll have a better, higher dielectric strength. You'll have halogen free. It is flame retardant, chemical resistant, weather impact, crack resistant. It has a better flexibility, and it's compatible to nearly all the popular connectors, as well as being RoHS compliant. So this is the E-beam facility that we talk about. We have a facility which is set, this project of ours is set up over 150,000 square meters. And we are the only company to have E-beams up to 3 categories, which is 1.5 million electrovolts, 2.5 million electrovolts, and 3 million electrovolts. And what happens is an electron gun, which you can see here, which is the acceleration tube here. This is the electron gun. What happens is the electrons are accelerated, so the gun shoots out the electrons in the acceleration tube highlighted in red. They're accelerated, and then there is a scanning device on which the cable passes through that via the extraction, and you will find that the continuously the cable goes through it, which gives it cross-linkable properties as well. So like I said, again, it offers superior linking of the polymers and thermal and mechanical properties. Coming to the range of cables that we offer, we can supply from 2.5 square mm up to 300 square mm, which meets the TUV 2007, 2012, BACN as well as IEC properties. We can also offer these cables with armoring, which is required. I think UAE it is quite regularly required. We also offer an option of nylon sheathing. We have found, like I said, in Australian countries, they prefer to have most of their cables being nylon resistant, which is rodent as well as termite resistant. We also offer this generally, like we said, for the aluminum and copper being the price difference high, we also offer it as a flexible aluminum conductor, or it could be a copper clad. It's an aluminum conductor with a copper clad done on that. And the DC underground we can offer with the round wiring, flat strip, all steel tape armoring, depending on how the requirement is there. But those are generally from the combiner box to inverter. These cables, single core cables which are used for the panels, they are generally suitable for 120 degrees operating, and they offer 15% more current rating than a normal cables. Like we mentioned, most in the whole of GCC, there is no e-beam facility available. So they're all using the steam curing. Whereas we, by supplying these through the e-beam facility, they are offering nearly 15% more current rating. There is also these cables are required. Many of these contractors also want a UL approved cable if they're US based companies. So we also offer these cables as UL 4703 certified, and they comply to the PR1, PR2, -40, FT1, FT4, and sun resistant rating, which are generally required for the US market. So we even do that. These are our certifications, our UL certification of compliance, our TUV certification of compliance is also there. There is one more interesting, generally we always find that most of the contractors also generally end up buying their harnesses from somebody else and cables from somewhere else. And there is always a mismatch in the two things. Sometimes the length required varies, or they have to cut the lengths in a different way. So what Apar offers uniquely is also an assembly and wiring harness together with the cable supply. So it's like a one-stop shop. And the advantage of using this solar is, 30% of the electrical contractors, their cost is in installing the string and array cables. And the time needed for installation can be saved if you use the solar harness. Again, if you use these Apar solar harnesses, 30% of your cable consumption is also saved instead of the direct cable installation. And it's a common trend. You'll find that 10% of the cable gets scrapped during direct installation. If you're using the cable solar harness pre-built, that saves the cost also. Instead of the conventional wiring, it makes more sense to go with the solar harnesses that Apar is offering, because you require lux, connector, heat sinks, cable management system, fuse, conduit, cable, insulation tape, and all of those. Whereas buying a harness saves all that trouble for most of the electrical contractors. So again, whenever we supply these harnesses, it could be either a 2-in-1 out or branch harness. It could be a jumper harness depending on the requirement. And the cables that we used are the same TUV approved cables. And it's an inline fuse is 25 amp, 1500 volt. The TUV certified cable, the rating voltage is as per IEC, and the DC test voltage is 15.6 kilowatt for 5 minutes. These are a few of the prominent customers that we have supplied our cables to. Most of the international EPCs are covered in that. And these are the complete list of the countries where currently we are exporting these cables. And thank you very much. This is what we have to present, and we probably would like to answer any questions that you might be having in future. Over to Mr. Verma, please.
Thanks, Mr. Doshi. Thanks for a nice presentation. I think I'll move to the next item in our agenda. I'll have a quick introduction with Power and Sun, and then we take up the questions and the panel discussions after that. Okay, so I need to change me as a presenter. A very quick introduction on Power & Son. We are a one-stop shop and solution company for solar components and solar systems. We're basically a demand aggregator. We do it offline and online. We collect up the market demands in the countries where we are present, put them together on a real-time basis, draw projections from here for the next 3 months, 6 months, place the orders in advance, and thereby create the economies of scale, and the benefits is passed out, and then the benefit is passed back to the customers. We also provide engineering and project management services, not all the times, but certain specific customers and in certain specific countries. Solar Simplified, I'll just explain it to you a little bit more in a second or third slide when I go on this subject. 360-degree solutions is off-grid, on-grid, zero exports, hybrid, PV, diesel, all systems, whatever is in the renewable industry with the PV, we have a solution and the systems for it. Probably one of the only few companies in the region who also have an online portal of having service to the B2C market as well. This was December 2020, 450. By the end of this month, I think it is around 580 megawatt we have shipped. Around 110 megawatt is almost in the first 5 months of this year. We have a presence or footprints in more than 30-35 different countries. We have our own offices, apart Dubai being a headquarter. Now we recently opened it up in India. We have Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Pakistan is in the process now, so we'll be having it in Pakistan as well. So there are reach which is getting extended now. Integrated suppliers, as we understand the language of the complete system, we size it and then optimize it and able to provide all the components, or maybe 95% of the components which are required in the solar projects. We are mostly in a C&I sector. We don't operate on a utility scale, so residential and C&I sectors. More than 6-7 years in the industry. 2016-17 onwards, when the UAE installation started, we are active from that point of time, and till now we are the largest distributor in this in this region. We have a presence in Southeast Asia, Middle East, and Africa. This is the one subject I normally speak in most of the sessions like this, whether organized by us or even from the outside. There are manufacturing companies who drive the technology in the industry. They speak about what is best for the industry. They come up with the new products. Every 6 months to 1 year, you will see that new technology coming up, either in PV modules or in inverters, and all are working it towards increasing the efficiency, making increasing the energy yield, reducing the cost, all that area. Then there are engineers or consultants who work towards ensuring that there's a right utilization of the technology in actual systems, and they ensure that what has been agreed is also been delivered. Now there is one area which is left by most of the stakeholders, and that is how do we handle effectively the supply chain only after the finished goods till the time they are commissioned. I'm not talking about the raw material and the manufacturing process of that element of supply chain. If we talk from the finished goods till the time the finished goods are installed, if we just discuss about that, 75 to 80% of time, money, and energy, in my opinion, is spent actually in making the materials available to the site. And if this is managed better and this is understood better in its finest of fine details, and then optimized, I think we will be able to save at least 30-40% of the overall time frame in which the solar projects are turned around. And this is a substantial cost. This is a reduction of I mean, it's indirect way of reducing the overall cost of the installations and the overall cost of the system. This is true not only from the cost point of view, but also from the point of view of reducing the wastages, reducing your whatever resources are available, sweating those resources much more than what you are doing it today. And it is very simple. It is not. It's not a very complicated subject. It's a very simple subject, but it needs an attention to the minutest of the minute details which are associated with the project. Even if I have to give you some simple examples, I can, one of the very fine example can be, suppose if you need to order X quantity of a PV modules, and then the pack sizes or the container loadability is talking it about X plus something. So what you will do it with the X plus area which is there with you, whether it is either you take it, hold it with you, or you use it for the next lot. When you wait for another 2 or 3 months time, you say the sizes have changed, the technologies have changed, and it keeps on complicating it. So basically, our role is more of a aggregator or a facilitator who picks up the demand from the market, put them all together, and then give it to the manufacturers and work along with them so that the material is available in a scheduled period of time. This is, though it's a very simple way, but in terms of a detailing, when we prepare or when we produce the master document of a quarter on a quarterly basis, it can have as much as 40-50 columns and something close to around 400-500 row items. And with those permutation combinations, you arrive at a master plan, and then those things are implemented to the and that's how that 30% that's how the 30% of the overall time reduction which we're talking about is actually possible. Now this is also possible by doing a little bit of advanced working and giving a visibility to our end clients that what is the product which is available in terms of a power bin, in terms of the volumes which is available for the next 3 months. So this is so that in the design those systems are being taken, and then we don't have a situation of changing it every now and then and every time whenever the project is approved, and then again we go back into the changes and all. So this is actually a methodology which we use it, which is based on using actually the best practices and principles of supply chain and putting them into the solar industry, especially in a distribution model, which is restricted to mostly with the C&I sector. Anything around 20-25, 30 megawatt, we're quite reasonably effective and very nicely placed in terms of the costs also. Solar Simplified, as I said, it is the basic objective is very simple, is to, if you're in general any EPC for a say for 3 megawatt or a 5 megawatt project, they are delivering it in a 6 months to 9 months time. Can it be delivered in 30% less or 40% less time of this? Can it be delivered 6 months can become 4 months, or 9 months can become 7 months or 8 months? So this is the only objective at which we work, so that with the same resources are sweat more, and the speed of solarization is actually more and more in the region, without compromising it on the energy yield and design, and the cost at the end of it should, the direct cost should reduce at least by 1.5 to 2%. Indirect may be much more than that. This is normally done by aligning the demand chain, which I said that instead of having a various power bins in a PV modules like 535, 530, 525, 540, 545. So we standardize this, and then we provide that advance information that 540 may be available for the next 3 months, and then for after 3 months it will be 550, the thing which is available. And there is a constant touch online and offline both. So there's a bit of a alignment which takes place on the availability side and on the at the designing stage itself, so that they keep that in consideration. Bringing the required visibility is extremely important aspect. What is happening for a project in terms of their supplies? We have a system of providing those visibilities on a weekly manner. Increasing availability is one of the strongest point, and that's why we exist, because in the solar industry the components can always be directly purchased from the manufacturer. So it's very important for an integrator or for a distributor or demand aggregator, whatever you like to call us, but to have their space effectively. And the 3 value additions which we bring in to our customers is ease of transactions, means is a one LC or one negotiation or one terms or a one point of contact for all the components. Cables, structures, inverters, PV modules, combiner boxes, connectors. This is one first very important value addition. You need not to deal or negotiate or discuss it with the various people. The prices are more or less open, so you don't have a space to hide by any means in a solar industry. Is very transparent pricing across the world. And then the next is availability. We take that risk because mostly the developer or the EPC, they start procuring when project is signed, PO has been placed, advances has been paid, then only the procurement cycle takes place. But with us, we track it at the project level, and the procurement cycle starts when the project has been conceptualized or when the project is actually in the awarding process itself, because we know if it is not A, the B will be there, or B, if not B, the C will be there. Or if this entire project anything happens, then the same thing can be used in another country or in another project. So we take that risk, we place the orders in advance, and that's how the risk which is with the installer or with the developer, we take that risk and we handle it at our end. We only design and distribute components. We don't engage ourselves in any installations anywhere in the world, and we don't intend to do that also. Agility is very important, because in current timings you can see the LME is, I think, extremely volatile. In my last 3-4 years of an experience of tracking LME for the copper cables, extremely volatile. PV modules, fortunately or unfortunately, this year, right from the beginning of the year, is highly volatile. 30-35% price increase has taken place. Every week it has been changing. So there's a bit of a situation where things are not very clear. I mean, you can't even predict it for 1 month. So being agile in this type of situations is extremely important, and we do it quite scientifically and progressively. Vision-wise, we work towards making the entire process simple, agile, and in a very optimized way. We work towards the speed of solarization. If the same resources can install 10 megawatt or 15 megawatt in a year, with the same resources, how they can do it 18 or 20 megawatt, or maybe a 30-40% higher than that. We align the market demands, as we have already spoken. And the last but not the least is that the entire company is structured and based on the principle that whosoever is a part of a transaction, he should have his space, and he should have his value and his space both, and thereby he should also on from the system. So we handle this in a very simple or in a very transparent way. And thanks to all of your support and thanks to all your recognition that we are able to grow year on year in the last couple of years. We are almost every year we are doubling our revenues. It's close to around 150 million dirham company now in terms of Dubai dirhams, and this has been getting repeated. The last year, what we did in a full year, we have done it in actually first 5 months. Thanks. With this, I will go back to the question answer session now. I think I request both the panelists to be they can open up their mic as well as their cameras. So by the time Mr. Doshi joins us back on the screen, let me ask a question to you, Mr. Joe. What is the support which SolarEdge provides in monitoring the system and the post-sale service part? You need to switch on your. Yes, please.
So based on the fact that we are using the power optimizer, as I mentioned before, we really see exactly where the problem occurs, right? So that's a big advantage. We don't understand that there is a problem in a string, but we exactly know where the problem is. So, and that's important. Now, let's say we have a system installed at a client. The client himself can open a service case. The installer can open a service case. You as a distributor could open a service case, and the service case goes directly to SolarEdge. That's very important, okay? We are in the driver's seat to solve a problem. You open a service case online, and that means one of our engineers, wherever he sits in this world, will work on your case. And this means we have an advantage because our return, our response time is very, very fast. So that's the first part. The second part is, let's say if there is an issue with one of our products, right, which we identify very, very fast that it's our problem. In this case, what we typically do is that we overstaff, let's say, some of the products and host them and staff them with you as our partner, so that when there is an issue out in the field, that there is relatively fast, immediately a replacement part being offered, right? Which then the installer replaces them in the field. But all these elements really lead to the fact that we have a very, very fast reaction time and therefore allow high uptime of the system.
Thanks, Joe. Another, I will take it, a question for Mr. Doshi. In this turbulent time of LME changing it every day, and it's highly volatile, what do you suggest for the EPCs, or how would you like to advise them so that this volatility is not exposed while they are designing or they are doing their budgeting?
Yeah, I was actually expecting that question, to be very honest. Because as we speak, yesterday and today's LME, the difference is around $200. The difference of LME, which we used to see happening every week or every 10-15 days, now it's happening throughout 1 day's time. So I think these are just, there are two ways to look at it. Somebody says LME is just temporary phase and it's going to go down, but to be honest, we don't see it. We only see the demand of, with most of the countries now opening up their economies and their development, we think the demand is going to go up. So LME would probably remain at a 9,000, 11,000 level. I think the ideal solution for that would be, see, what we have predominantly observed is that cable, although forms maybe 20% of the total solar rooftop, budgeting, but it's not given that much importance, probably because it has always been, there's not technologically much advancement. not certainly as much as the other products like inverters or panels and all. But I think the right way to look at it is, like I said, one is where we suggested, the harnesses, if they can be bought along with the cables from the OEM themselves. That actually helps you save a lot of the cost of it. Second way to look at is, since you have the, I would say, it might sound a bit odd, but I think the distributors like Power and Sun would play a very major role in this, because I know for a fact that you take a certain risks of booking the metal or keeping the stock of it. There are chances the metal might go down and you might end up losing. But I think as a buyer, going through a distributor helps, because you like the big jobs which come out, the EPC jobs might be having a certain budget to it. But especially when in the C&I sector, I think somebody like Power and Sun plays a very important role, wherein you want the cables yesterday or tomorrow, they have it in stock. So I think I should congratulate Mr. Verma and his team, for taking that risk on their heads and ensuring that their clients don't have to suffer on those variations. So yeah, I think there is no right solution or right answer to this. We hope that things become more stabilized, but depending on the kind of project that you have, it's a big project, wait for a dip and book the, I think I can speak for Apar that, we can immediately deliver the products if the volume is too high, but I think Mr. Verma is doing a tremendous job for us by keeping that volume of stock with him, which actually takes away the risk for the buyers.
I should just add it to you, Mr. Doshi. Here, what we have done it with our key clients where the volumes are very high or they have almost one or two projects on a monthly basis. We have opened a little bit less risk pricing methodology of averaging it out the LME over a period of 1 month.
That's great. In fact, that helps, because over a period of 1 month, if you see, the LME will be more or less the same if you buy it on spot. It's like putting money in a share. If you're going in the index of Nasdaq or any other share market, you wait for the right dip and just buy it off. But that's a risk. You can't do those risks in business. You're not in the business of earning or saving money. You need the product. You need to price smartly.
So we are trying our best at our end to de-risk it as much as possible, providing it on average. But this is something which you actually cannot predict that what will be the LME. So making a
I can
pool.
assure you, Mr. Verma. I mean, see, the advantage of, I might be immodest in this saying this, but working with Apar, the advantage which is there is, because we have these cables being manufactured day in, day out. I mean, you modestly said that Apar is not much there, but I know for a fact that you have helped us in, probably we are one of the largest sellers of these string cables for rooftop for C&I in the UAE market, at least, if not the Gulf. And I'm sure that, we will be reaching the other countries also. But yes, I think that does help in developing it. And Apar can always give fast deliveries. By the time, if you were to book on the monthly average, like you said, before the cable reaches there, you would already have your pricing. So you will be selling it at the market price. If lesser, actually, not the market price.
Thanks, Mr. Doshi. I'll take one question from audience, Mr. Govan Ilan. I think I'll just give you a mic now. Mr. Govan has raised his hand. It means that he wants to ask a question. Mr. Govan, are you with us now? So seems to be, I think, though his mic is unmuted, but he is not able to connect or to speak. Let me take a question from a chat now. Ankit Tripathi, I think they are the specific optimizers for inverters, or we can use any model of optimizers to any model of inverters. For example, 17 kilowatt inverter, can we use any model of optimizer? Joel, would you like to? Yes.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, SolarEdge is able to work with any kind of panel, of any kind of module, right? So the only differentiation that we need to do is, are we connecting one panel with one optimizer, or are we connecting two panels with one optimizer? And depending on, let's say, the size and specifically on the wattage of the panels, we then just differentiate. So we have our biggest 2-to-1 power optimizer covers 1100 watt. Our biggest 1-to-1 power optimizer covers 650 watt. So we always find a solution.
Thanks, Joe. There's another question for you. Can you just suggest that what are the products which are approved with DIVA and in Bahrain, in this region, in what utilities, what products are approved?
So what we focus on commercial, and therefore a 27.6, a 55, and an 82 kilowatt product is approved.
Okay. And is there a approval process on for Advia for Abu Dhabi as also? I think we lost him on a connection. Mr. Doshi, you are there now. Harness. So do you recommend this for the rooftops also? And how it is going to help?
So
and
see,
what are the
happens-
documents details which is needed? I think this question is very specifically is asking, it must be having some project with him. I will connect them offline, but now the question is that, yes.
What is the question?
Question is that this cable harness.
Yeah.
So how will you handle this cable harness subject? What are the document details you need
What
from
happens is, see, it's not documentation. Basically, I think what we need to know is what is the requirement of the. So today, if the contractor would probably be having an idea, what are the harnesses, what are the lengths which they want. So we can just offer them the pricing along with the cable. We'll be doing a harness and giving it to them. So if they can share us whatever current information that they have, and we can take it up from their offline and offer them our best solution.
And it can be done with the required connector if the required connector informations are also given.
Yes, of course. Like I said, we have different types of connectors. So there is a 2-in, 1-out. There is also a branch, or there is also a jumper harness.
I was talking it about from the supplier, Weidmuller or Almax or MC4. So Rene. So it's a choice of a connector which can be given in the specifications, and then you can.
Yeah. They can let us know. In fact, we have tie-ups with most of them, or we can even offer whatever they want. Even if we can maybe offer someone better or in at a lower price range. That can be, if there is a specific approval, we can use those.
Any studies that how much, or practically if there is, we may need to check out with couple of EPCs and find it out if this will really reduce their time consumption, because cutting the cable, connectors.
If we can in fact have a separate, we can have a separate session. So we have a specialist of cable harnesses as well. We can have a separate one-on-one session organized with them where they can in fact discuss more in detail about it.
Okay. That's
Any
very
technical
nice.
questions which are there, it may be routed through you, and we will directly connect them with our team. We have a specialized team of because it's not just the solar harness. We are even doing auto harness, for example. So we have a specialized team for these harnesses and all, and we will definitely connect with them, and we can even offer them better solutions.
Something which is applicable and actively used in automobile industry. Same thing can it do over here in the solar industry also?
No. In fact, we are doing a huge supply of solar harnesses in India and internationally also. So we have an idea. So it's not a newly developed thing. We are promoting it more rigorously now because we have seen that wherever we have tried to sell it as a package, in fact the EPCs have found it, the contractors rather have found it much cheaper, especially in the C&I sector.
So this is good to use for rooftop and ground mount both, or it is
both of them.
good. Excellent. Joe,
in fact, I think we have some samples also. You can probably we can Unfortunately, because of travel restrictions, otherwise we could just fly out, have a discussion, and discuss it with them.
Okay, good. Joe, there's a very quick question. In Abu Dhabi also there are product approvals, because there's a product approval required there as well. So has it been applied, or is a question, so I need to ask you this?
So in this regard, we would, let's say, address it in the same way. So first of all, we would see commercial and industrial as our main market, and we will go for this application to get approved. I think you raised before the question, what about other countries? For instance, we are also by EVA approved in Bahrain. So again, I have to say, and this is something really I want to appreciate, EVA has been very, very supportive in the way we were able to approve and certify our products here. It was very, very fast, and I mean, of course, we gave all the documents required, but then the process goes rather smooth, and that's why I see it very positive. Wherever we go and wherever we have a specific requirement, I'm sure we can meet it.
Thanks. I think we have a restriction of time. We are almost at the last stage. Joe, would you like to say your last few words to the audience?
Look, from my perspective, as I said, and I want to repeat, first of all, I'm glad to have a partner in a region where I see there is, you have tremendous energy consumptions here in this country. Okay? And yes, I know that you have, let's say, electricity prices too low, and they might increase. But what I definitely see is that this country here asks for quality, and it asks for state-of-the-art technology, and that's something that we can together offer. Thanks a lot.
Mr. Doshi, a very quick.
I'll actually second Joe's this thing. That I mean, we started out searching for a good market in the UAE. I think 2.5 years back. We were finding it a bit difficult to get our product promoted, but thanks to Power and Sun, it has been a great journey so far, and I'm sure that not only just the UAE but the whole of GCC we see as a huge prospect. And with their reach and their commitment, I would say, or their rigorous, I would say, passion for expanding this, I think there's a great road ahead of us.
Thanks.
And we look forward to working on this.
Thanks, Mr. Doshi. Thanks, Joe. My sincere thanks to all the attendees. I think there was a large number which has come forward and joined this. We do conduct this type of training programs or a quick, exchange of views and say learnings from the industry experts. The basic idea is to learn better and to know what new is happening. Especially, I think I see people from Europe also joining us. There's people from India, the people from Middle East. Very nice. Once again, thanks, and thanks to the team who was also working it behind and making this successful. The presentation of both the companies will be available in the next 1 or 2 days time on our website in the news section. If there are any questions you wanted to ask even after the event, please feel free to write to me or to write to any one of the panelists. We will be happy to support and assist you. Thanks once again, ladies and gentlemen. Take care. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe, everyone.
Thanks.
Hopefully.